Story 1. Update. Husband is leaving me for his best friend. Original post. Characters, fake names, ops me, 28 female, Sam, my husband, 29 male, lies, husband's female best friend, 28 female, Raf, lies' husband, 29 male. My husband has a best friend, who he met 10 years ago in uni, and they have been inseparable since. She's really nice and has honestly been a great friend to my husband and me as well. She was in an on-off relationship with her husband for about 9 years, until they got married about 2 years ago. Now, starting from uni days, Sam fell in love really hard with Lies, but as she was with Raf, so she turned him down, and they continued being friends. But Sam never really got over her completely, and somewhere deep, I believe he hoped that she'd leave Raf for him. When I met Sam during our masters, he told me all about her, and how she was his first love, the one that got away, etc. We started dating a while later, and I fell absolutely in love with him. I still sometimes felt he wasn't over her, but I assumed I was probably just jealous. Fast forward to 3 years ago, Raf and Lies got engaged, and for 2 whole weeks Sam was just disinterested in everything. It almost looked like he was in mourning, and that had me really worried and doubting his feelings for me. But a few weeks later he proposed to, and I was overjoyed. Lies told me that he had just been acting that way to throw me off, and had told her the plans to propose weeks ago. I said yes, and slowly our relationship started getting heavenly. We were just so damn happy, part of which was due to the fact that Lies and Raf were busy with their life, and we were spending all our time together. We got married a year ago. Recently, Raf died in a car crash, and understandably Lies was inconsolable. I tried to be there for her, but she has been pushing me away, and I respected her. But the thing is, Sam has been spending all his time with her. I understand how they are very close, and she needs him right now, but it feels like they're pushing me out of their lives. Sam has been acting strange, and it almost feels like he's putting this wall between us and acting like I'm not even his wife. He goes to her house every day and spends the entire day there, sometimes even the nights, and only calls me about once a day. When he does come home, he spends most of his time sleeping or catching up on work. We were planning on starting a family, and he's indefinitely postponed that too, saying he's not ready now. I don't want to sound insensitive, but I feel like he's neglecting me, and it feels like he's going to leave me for her now. I talked to him about this, and he blew up and called me insensitive and jealous for questioning his loyalties. He said that he loves her platonically, and seeing her like this breaks his heart, and he'd do anything to make her feel better. He cried in front of me, saying I was making this even more difficult, and he wouldn't even think about making a move on her, as Raf was his friend too. He left saying that he's reconsidering our marriage, as I'm not the person he married. He hasn't come back since yesterday, and is staying at hotel. I feel really bad about all this, but I still can't shake these feelings off. What is the right thing to do now? Edit. I feel like I have not worded this very well, as I was high on emotions. Sam has never before this made me feel like second option during our time together, and we have been very happy together. Lisa's a common sight, and we became good friends when I started dating Sam, and has always tried to include me in their best friend activities, and never made me feel uncomfortable with their behavior. I truly love them both and trust them, but this sudden change is making me a bit uncomfortable. He spent 2 nights at her place. One was the day Raf died, and another a week later. Coming to how she's pushing me out, I went over to her place a few times, but she was curled up in her room and wouldn't talk to me or anyone else. It seems like only Sam can make her talk or eat right now. Also, it's been only 3 weeks since Raf died, so I now feel like I may be overreacting due to the stress of everything that's happening. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I talked to him about this, and he blew up and called me insensitive and jealous for questioning his loyalties. He said that he loves her platonically, and seeing her like this breaks his heart, and he'd do anything to make her feel better. He cried in front of me saying I was making this even more difficult, and he wouldn't even think about making a move on her as Raf was his friend too. He left saying that he's reconsidering our marriage as I'm not the person he married. See, this entire situation is weird, but this thing you wrote, you realize that he's about to try and take it out, using you as the excuse for it. If he is grieving Raf as well, this situation is understandable, but what it really looks like is he's using the widow's grief to try and make his move. He can be glad that Lies is available, and sad that Raf is dead at the same time, you see. Honestly, you pointed out that he said to you that you aren't the person he married. What part of him that you're seeing right now is the person you married? He cried in front of me saying, I was making this even more difficult, and he wouldn't even think about making a move on her as Raf was his friend too. That really is an uncomfortable answer. The first and only reason really should be because he loves Up, would never hurt her, and has no romantic feelings for Lies, not because by hooking up, he'd be betraying his dead friend. It's almost like he's defensive. I think you should reconsider your relationship with him altogether. He told you that she was the one that got away before you were even married, implying that he still had feelings for her. He might not decide to make a move because he was friends with Raf, but it sounds to me like you and your feelings will always be placed behind Lies. You can either accept this and continue on with the relationship, or you can decide it's not acceptable and leave him. My husband has a best female friend, and I cannot imagine, under any circumstance, him ever staying at her house and not talking to me, but once a day while he was there. Not appropriate under any circumstance. And my husband never even had feelings for or date Hi's friend. I don't want to come across as insensitive, but you're always going to be second best to Lies. I agree, it seems he married her as better than nothing kind of option. Ignoring everything else, you know what sticks out to me. You brought up your valid feelings, and not only did he yell at you for it, but threatened divorce. What happened to having honest and open communication? You have right to feel the way you do, even if he doesn't understand it. He should have validated how you felt and reinforced how much he loves you. Tried to find a way to help you, even if it was just calling more. In my opinion, it seems like he is pulling back and trying to find a reason to validate leaving you, even if that means blowing up on you for having normal feelings and emotions. You've been supportive of, God forbid you request some sort of reaffair, and after 3 weeks. I would have said something on day 3, because Liz is an adult, and she can get professional help. She doesn't have to use your husband as a crutch and destroy your relationship. My heart aches for you reading this. Always trust your instincts. When you guys were at uni, and he was in a funk after Raf proposed, and Lies said he planned that, and his proposal to you is suspect. What man acts down in the dumps before he proposes to someone to spend the rest of his life with? The fact that he is staying overnight is something nobody who is just friends would do. He has crossed boundaries that can cause irreparable damage. I know it's difficult to read people's responses, because I don't know anyone who gets married, believing they will be divorced within 5 years. Maybe your subconscious knew in you that you would be second to Lies in his heart, and you were relieved when they got married, because it removed the fear of rejection. Since then, he has shown his true nature, and now you are second in his life. He is preparing the foundation to leave. False hope is such a dangerous thing that we want to stand firmly on, and the foundation is shifting sand. The more we put on top of it, the heavier it gets, and we end up slipping, trying to get our bearings, wondering why we can't hold things together, blaming ourselves. We're being blamed when it all comes crashing down around us. Your heart desires what he is giving Lies. You should be the recipient, and the two of you together should be supporting her. You deserve to be put in the number 1 position. I'm sorry you are going through this. The pain you must feel indescribable. I see you, and the pain your husband has caused, and am standing on the sidelines, cheering you on to happiness. And now for the update. My last post got more advice than I had expected, and I went through all the comments, some of which were genuinely very helpful, so thank you to everyone. Sam is pretty active on Reddit and came across my post and realized it was me, as the details were too similar for it to be just a coincidence. He called me after going through the post and comments and came back home soon after. We had a long and deep conversation where we both opened up about our feelings. He apologized for being distant and threatening divorce, and told me how mentally and physically exhausting all this had been for him, and how terribly lonely he was feeling, and me being mad at him made him feel even worse. He also told me that Liz was a few weeks pregnant, and he was helping her plan a big reveal to Raf. But after the crash, all the trauma made her miscarry, and in the span of 3 days she lost her husband as well her unborn child. She was inconsolable, and as nobody knew about the baby yet, so she made Sam swear not to tell anyone about this. When I brought up trying for a baby as I was ovulating, he didn't know what to tell me, as it felt very inconsiderate to him for us to have a baby just when Liz lost hers, but couldn't tell me. We talked a lot, and he promised to be honest with me, always, no matter what promises he makes, and apologized for making me feel like a second option. We agreed to go for marriage counseling, as I realized I too have some trust issues that I had been projecting onto him. We talked about this to Liz a few days after, when she was starting to feel better, and she did not take it very well. She lost her temper and said how inconsiderate I was, and how even in all this, I was trying to make it all about me. She accused me of being jealous and a terrible friend, and basically threw us out of her house. We have tried contacting her, but she refuses to talk to either of us, saying she does not need people like us in her life anymore. We are now giving her time to cool off, and maybe if she agrees I can try to make her understand my point of view. Meanwhile, me and Sam have been using this time to get closer to each other, and things are much better, although he is still a bit worried about her as she has cut him out. But we are sharing things with each other, and I am hoping all goes well from here. Now for some top comments. Here's what I don't get. Liz was pregnant, presumably with Raf's baby, but she told Sam first, and he was helping her plan a bigger deal to Raf. Now, I've never been pregnant, but I think if it was a wanted baby, I'd tell the father first, before I told anyone else, including my BFF, regardless of the sex of that BFF. This whole story is not making sense to me. Before your husband, this seems fake, or they were having an affair and the pregnancy lost is just an excuse for her husband to not have a baby with her. I didn't read your original post the first time, but went back to read it. Holy crap, what a roller coaster. I don't really think you're making it all about you. Given the history, I think most people would have had the same feelings or insecurities. I'm really happy that you and your husband were able to work through things to a point where you're back on track. Obviously, what happened to Liz is terrible. It really sucks that she's had to go through 2 losers, but it's not your fault that happened. It's freak circumstances. She may just be projecting and looking for someone to lash out at, which is somewhat understandable what she went through. Giving her space is a good option. Best of luck on your new path. To me, Liz isn't the problem. Sam is. He was willing to reconsider his marriage just because Op felt left out. Not to mention he put wanting a family on hold for Liz. Not to mention he was in love with her and called her the one who ran away. Like, honestly, if Liz were to make him choose, my money is he would choose her. Typically, partners tell each other everything, but he was willing to risk his relationship to keep Liz's secrets, to which I find very concerning. When I brought up trying for a baby as I was ovulating, he didn't know what to tell me, as it felt very inconsiderate to him for us to have a baby just when Liz lost hers, but couldn't tell me, laughing my butt off. What the hell is this crap? Why are you putting your life on hold for your husband's friend? Right. Story 2. Update. My female 22 boyfriend, male 25, proposed during his sister's wedding and I accepted, but I don't know if I want to marry him. Original post. My boyfriend and I went to his sister's wedding last Friday. They have always had a strained relationship, but it was a great wedding and both of them seemed to get along. We had been at the party for about 2 hours when he goes up to the DJ and asks for the microphone. I thought that he was going to toast for his sister, but no. He asks me to come up to him. I was terrified. I remember thinking to myself, he is not doing that. No. I also remember looking at his sister, and she looking at me, and we both had the same look on our faces, but she was more mad. He then proceeds to propose to me at his sister's wedding. People were cheering around us, and his sister just looked like she wanted to cry. I was just frozen, and I didn't know what else to do than to say yes. I was crying, but not happy crying. People were super ecstatic. After that, I went up to his sister and was apologizing over and over. She was mad like mad. I felt so sorry for her. I left early and my boyfriend came at like 2 a.m. hammered to our hotel room. I was mad, so I confronted him. At first he was like, "Babe." My whole family was there. It was the best time, till he finally admitted that he also did it because his sister had ruined his graduation by announcing her wedding. I left the morning after and haven't talked to him since. I don't know what to do. He won't stop calling, but I am very mad. I don't even know what to say to him. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Aj. He used you as a tool to get back at his sister at her wedding. Aj. Just curious, what does Aj mean? Or is it a typo? I didn't even realize I had written it. I'm Icelandic. It's just you in Icelandic. I obviously had a very visceral reaction to this, so it's not about you and he deciding to spend your lives together, not about a special time for you, not about how he was letting everyone know he loves you and wants to be with you. It was about him getting back at his sister for taking the spotlight at his graduation. Not husband material, hard pass. Not to mention that if you stay with him, lol, don't, and he proposes again, because he'd have to, because this is obviously a joke of a proposal, right? You're going to be reminded of this at your wedding and leading up to it. You're going to fret his sister is going to pull something. You're going to remember his sister's face at her wedding every time you see her, and every time you think about her wedding, your first and second proposal. How you had to apologize for his poor decision and terrible behavior. Your life is going to end up being apologizing for his horrible behavior. So yeah, hard pass. I think the point of the rest of her life becoming a constant stream of apologies for his horrible behavior is on point. She will always be anxious about what he will do to others, or even herself. This stunt he pulled was vindictive and cruel to both her and his sister. If he doesn't have the emotional capacity to understand why it was so gross, and sincerely apologize to both of them, I'd be passing on long term with this a hat. I don't blame his sister for being furious, and I don't blame you for being furious either. I would have been absolutely humiliated and quite possibly would have left the reception instead of going up to him when he had the microphone. Having said that, I hate being the center of attention. The only time a proposal like this works is if everyone is in agreement. You agree to a public proposal, not necessarily knowing the details. His sister and new husband were happy for it to happen, etc. This was not the case here. How long had you been together before this happened? And had he ever mentioned proposing you before this? We have been together for 4 years, and we have been talking about marriage, but nothing in concrete. And now for the update. Long story short, I broke up with him. It was very messy, and he kept pushing me to come back to him. His argument was that he loves me, and that showing his sister whose boss was just a nice bonus. We kept fighting until I finally broke things off. He didn't take it too well, because in his mind, he didn't do anything wrong, so he thought that I was taking his sister's side. I have lost some friends who said that I was just looking for an easy out and so on. In the moment, I feel actually pretty devastated because I still love him, and I feel like everyone hates me. I know it's such a weak thing to be this affected, but I am. Now for some comments. Showing his sister whose boss was just a nice bonus. What the actual hell? Is he a child? So basically, he proposed at his sister's wedding without telling her. Without going back to the original post because I'm too lazy. I think his sister got engaged at his graduation dinner, and all the attention went to her instead, so he's been harboring this jealousy for years, and this was an attempt to even things out. So yes, he is a child. Op's comment on the original post says his sister told his family that she'd gotten engaged at his graduation, not that the proposal had happened at his graduation. Op's ex is nasty. I remember your post. I had such a visceral reaction to it that I didn't notice I wrote the Icelandic AJ instead of EU. You will find an adult to be with and better friends. You did the right thing. I remember your comment. It cracked me up. I have lost some friends who said that I was just looking for an easy out and so on. Nice of them to identify themselves as a holes for you to remove from your personal life. It's the easy out bit that bothers me. So these friends recognize a need for an out, but are offended when it's taken. Nobody needs to suffer in a relationship just because other people think you should stay together.